Welcome to Pasadena Monthly. I'm your host, Justin Chapman. After taking a look at what's been going on in Pasadena this past month, we'll speak with our guest, local author Chip Jacobs. But before we get started, let's check out these Pasadena media news briefs.
Pasadena Humane has announced the appointment of Chris Ramon as its new president and chief executive officer following a nationwide search. Ramon, who served as interim leader since February, begins the role immediately. A La Cañada native, Ramon first became connected with Pasadena Humane as a high school volunteer. Since rejoining in 2018, he has held several leadership roles, including vice president and chief programs officer. In those positions, he expanded services, strengthened partnerships, and fostered innovation across the organization. Ramon brings years of nonprofit leadership experience to the role, including positions at Mickelson Found Animals and service on the boards of multiple animal welfare organizations. As interim CEO, Ramon guided Pasadena Humane through the Eaton fire response, overseeing search and rescue operations, assisting more than 1,500 animals, and coordinating emergency care for pets suffering under severe burns. For more information about Pasadena Humane, visit pasadenahumane.org. Pasadena is bustling with events this October, offering something for everyone, from sports and music to food, art, and unique experiences. On October 14th and 15th, Have You Ever Heard of Etta James takes the stage at the Huntington Art Gallery in San Marino as part of the Musique series. Haunted Pasadena continues throughout the month at the Stand with spooky experiences on October 17th, 24th, and 31st. Sports fans can catch UCLA versus Maryland football game at the Rose Bowl on October 18th. The same day, the Pasadena Fall Home Show opens at the Pasadena Convention Center. Food lovers can enjoy the Old Pasadena Food Tasting Walking Tour on October 18th, 19th, 25th, and 26th, sampling local culinary delights. Music fills the air as Mount Wilson Observatory hosts its Sunday afternoon concerts in the Dome on October 19th, followed by matinees on the mountain on October 25th. For a one-of-a-kind outdoor experience, visitors can try goat yoga at the Gamble House on October 25th. Later in the month, Pasadena welcomes Lightbox Expo from October 24th to 26th. And true crime fans can experience My Favorite Murder live at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium on October 28th. Finally, tour the historic Rose Bowl Stadium on October 31st and celebrate Halloween with Haunted Pasadena at the Stand. With this wide range of exhibitions, performances, sports, and family-friendly activities, October in Pasadena promises something memorable for everyone. For more information, visit visitpasadena.com/events.
Let's turn next to our lightning round of news updates. 1. The Olympics are returning to Pasadena. In addition to the Rose Bowl hosting men's and women's soccer semifinals and finals, news of which Rose Bowl CEO Jens Wyden broke here on this show, it was recently announced that the Rose Bowl Aquatic Center will host Olympic diving events during the 2028 Summer Games instead of Exposition Park, following approval by the LA City Council. The Rose Bowl Aquatic Center has a pool that already meets Olympic standards, will need fewer improvements before the Games, and will offer additional amenities for athletes and seating for spectators. The Rose Bowl Aquatic Center was built with funds left over from the 1984 Olympics. 2. The federal government has joined many residents, cities, and the county in suing SoCal Edison over its alleged role in the Eaton fire, which burned thousands of acres of national forest lands and damaged federal government-owned land and property. The lawsuit seeks to recover $40 million in costs due to fire suppression and rehabilitation of national forest property. SoCal Edison also released its proposed wildfire compensation program pay schedule for Eaton fire survivors. Rates would be based on square footage and extent of damage to homes. Homeowners and occupants could receive $900,000 to rebuild, minus the amount they received from their insurance, $200,000 for joining the program, and $100,000 per adult for non-economic damages. For family members who lost a loved one, they would receive $1.5 million for each death, plus $500,000 for each surviving spouse and eligible dependent. Attorneys for the residents and government agencies that have filed lawsuits are reviewing the terms of the proposal. 3. In some rare good news in Altadena, the Christmas Tree Lane lighting ceremony will take place this year. Most of the 135 enormous deodar cedar trees did survive the Eaton fire. It will be the 105th anniversary, with the celebration scheduled for 6 p.m. on Saturday, December 6th, at the intersection of Santa Rosa Avenue and Mariposa Street. The trees were planted in 1885 by the Woodbury brothers, and the Christmas lights began in 1920. The lane is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and designated a California State Historic Landmark. In the announcement, the Christmas Tree Lane Association said, "This season is about more than tradition. It's a time to honor what we've endured, reflect on our shared strength, and move forward together." I will certainly be there. Also, the Star of Palau on the hillside of the mountain, which was built in 1928 by Frank Nightingale, will also return this year. 4. The U.S. Supreme Court voted 6-3 to lift a temporary restraining order issued by an LA federal judge in a case involving several Pasadena residents detained by immigration agents earlier this summer. The restraining order had barred immigration agents from conducting roving patrols and detaining people without reasonable suspicion of being in the country illegally. The court held that agents may detain anyone they suspect is living in the United States unlawfully, even if that suspicion is based solely on a person's ethnicity, language, or occupation. Pasadena decided to cancel this year's Latino Heritage Parade due to current issues impacting our community, but the annual festival held in conjunction with the parade will continue from 5 to 9 p.m. on Saturday, October 11th in front of City Hall. 5. Pasadena hosted its third community engagement workshop for the Reconnecting Pasadena 710 Master Plan at Friendship Pasadena Church. The event included a presentation of updated design concepts for the former 710 North Stub area, followed by a moderated panel discussion and an audience Q&A. A city consultant firm, ACOM, conducted and presented a preliminary economic analysis of the 710 project that showed 4 potentially feasible development scenarios, ranging from $2.3 to $2.4 billion in total costs. All scenarios focus on mixed-use development combining residential, commercial, and life sciences uses. 2 main concepts under consideration are gardens and terraces and boulevards and paseos. Also, another consultant, Architectural Resources Group, released a new historical study that reveals the extent of displacement caused by construction of the 710 freeway. The study documents the loss of 188 buildings, including 117 single-family houses and multifamily buildings, 50 commercial buildings, including Orban Lumber Company, Greenbuck Restaurant, Jack Wall's Chevrolet Auto Dealership, Roman's California School Book Depository, and Bill's Coffee Shop, and 10 industrial facilities, including the Neighborhood Church of Pasadena, Ambassador College and Imperial Schools, and First A&E Church. 6. The Pasadena Unified School District Board of Education certified unaudited financial data showing the district ended the 2024 to 25 fiscal year with a deficit of more than $31 million. The school board also voted to move forward with exploring redevelopment options for the Linda Vista Elementary School campus, which has been vacant since 2006, including Linda Vista Park, and authorized district staff to seek proposals from developers under a joint occupancy agreement. 7. Pasadena City Council passed a resolution allowing residents to install larger solar power systems, part of the city's strategy to achieve 100% carbon-free electricity by the end of 2030. Pasadena Water and Power now permits customer-owned solar systems size up to 150% of a household or business's maximum annual electricity use over the past 5 years. PWP is also continuing its electric rate study, a 2-year rate plan that projects system-wide effective rate increases of 9.5% in both 2026 and 2027. 8. City Council approved moving forward with an RFP process to seek proposals to manage and maintain the Hahamungna Annex, which includes several former U.S. Forest Service buildings that have been vacant since 2004 and fallen into disrepair. The contract recipient will have to conduct a feasibility study to determine which buildings can be reused and which must be demolished. A coalition of 8 nonprofits have long sought to establish a climate resilience, education, and environmental center, or CREEC, at that location. 9. A 9.1-mile extension to the Metro A line, formerly the Gold Line, has now opened, allowing the public to ride the train all the way out to Glendora, San Dimas, Laverne, and Pomona. The A line now runs nearly 58 miles. The extension cost $1.5 billion and took 5 years of construction. Another extension is planned out to Claremont. And 10. I'm sad to report the passing of a longtime District 6 resident and community activist, Nina Chomsky. She was 78. An accidental fire started at her home, and firefighters found her body inside. They said she was likely unconscious and did not suffer. Nina was an attorney and a fierce advocate for West Pasadena and historic preservation for several decades. She was a 710 freeway fighter who also challenged many Rose Bowl projects and fought to preserve Linda Vista Park. She was the former president of the Linda Vista Annandale Association for many years, and she held roles on numerous city commissions, including the General Plan Coordinating Committee, the Design and Northwest Commissions, and the former Redevelopment Commission. She was recently elected to the West Pasadena Residents Association Board. Her cousin was the famous linguist Noam Chomsky. A memorial event in Nina's honor is being planned for November 16th at Linda Vista Park. Let's welcome our guest, Chip Jacobs, author of the novels Arroyo and Later Days and many other books. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Justin.
Chip is a Pasadena-based journalist and author of several books, including Smogtown, The Lung-Burning History of Pollution in Los Angeles, The People's Republic of Chemicals, which I'm quoted in this one, The Vicodin Thieves, and many others. Later Days, your latest book, is published by Rare Bird Books.
Correct.
On September 16th, and the book launch event was held at Vroman, September 18th. It's sort of a follow-up novel to Arroyo. Tell us what the new book is about.
The new book it is more autobiographical than Arroyo, although every writer imparts part of themselves into the lead character. But this book is based on my life and times in late 70s, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, attending Flint Ridge Prep. I changed the name of the school, the names of teachers, various other locales, but it's pretty accurate to what I grew up in. And Flint Ridge back then was a Lord of the Flies culture with high SAT scores and a lot of friendships and a lot of turmoil.
Right.
And the book follows two friends that are as different can be. One is bookish and anxious, and the other is rebellious and deeply troubled from a home life. And they sort of alternate, just like in real life, alternate saving each other from their worst devices, from their inner demons. Many of them started at home. And that actually does ring true with what I experienced. The school went co-ed my senior year. And although I was never very good at chemistry, it was a tremendous catalyst and experiment to watch, because it did take a very testosterone place of smart kids. The idea that it was millionaires' sons there, that is not true. Going to a prep school back then could mean you just came from a middle class background, and most of them did. But when we introduced girls there, it really revolutionized the way the school ran. Not immediately. And a group of us seniors who'd all grown up together, we had this implicit pact: we will not let girls tear us apart. And sure enough, the girls did help tear us apart. We found each other. But, when you're 17, 18, sort of the future you was calling. And the question is, can you hear it? Sometimes I couldn't hear it very correctly. And I was under the influence of adults who thought they knew how to plan my life. And I think that's, that either that's love or control. I'll let you debate. But we even though it was a dark time in America in the late 70s, we had OPEC gas shortages, and we had serial killers, so many we can't even name them. And America, I think, kind of lost the plot of itself. And our parents were glum. But for us, 1980 seemed this remarkable, bright sky era. We've been groomed for it. We've been prepared for it. I mean, just the excitement of what was going to happen. Sometimes I could not go to sleep because I was so excited about everything I wanted to experience. But it could also be crushing. And in my book, two friends that have a very explosive ending in high school are thrown back together 20 years later at a class reunion. Many books use class reunions as devices. I use mine as a launching point. It does not stay at the 20-year reunion. It stays as we see the two decide what the cost of their friendship is, and whether it's worth saving or ditching. And you have to make choices. And life does ask you, how much will you sacrifice for somebody? I feel, and that was one of the keys. How far will the characters go? To put aside their own selfish needs and problems to, lift somebody else up at their worst possible time. So I try to get into that. I also try to explore things I'm interested in. Pasadena's buried history. The people, and specifically the man that founded Flint Ridge. I'm just absolutely obsessed with near-death experience. I actually believe it's the key to solving many of humanity's problems. And so I did work that into the story in the end.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely tantalized by the life of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And so I brought her to Pasadena. I put her in All Saints Church, and I just try to see what would happen. So yeah, it's really a buddy story that doesn't look too much like your typical movies. It looks a little more like Good Will Hunting.
And do you consider it a sequel to Arroyo? And I mean, they share at least one character, Nick Chance, right? And also this theme of reincarnation figures into both of them.
Yes, I definitely believe in reincarnation as well as other elements of spiritual mythology or spiritual, the whole universe. I personally believe our loved ones and others are not as far away as we think. It is connected to Arroyo. I did bring back Nick Chance. I wanted to show him in high school, and also I resurrected a little girl who died of leukemia in Arroyo because I thought she was such an interesting character. And I based her on a real life friend of mine named Annie Taylor, who went to South Pass. We met her on a prank phone call when we were sophomores or maybe freshmen. The prank phone call lasted like 6-7 hours.
Wow.
My dad was so pissed about the phone bill. We just found this cool girl who was a year older, and she became like our dead mother. And her catchphrases were "Hi there," and "Don't do anything stupid like drive wasted." But she provided. She was like the big sister I needed, and I loved her. She had a very bohemian, free spirit, and so I just parked her in my book. And my senior year we had one girl in our senior class, so we had 37 boys and one girl.
Wow.
And that was tough on that one girl. So I brought in another one to create some character contrast.
Gotcha. And you once told me that, in fact, I think it was in the Pasadena Weekly cover story I did of Arroyo back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was rereading it, and you told me that you seemed to need to get angry to start writing a book. So was there something that was a catalyst for later days?
Absolutely. So good memory. So in Arroyo, I was so angry when I had written a feature for Kevin Urich, our old friend, forever friend, and I figured out all these men, the men that died building the Colorado Street Bridge, have gotten no recognition and were reduced to asterisks. In later days, it is based on a true story of a dying friend.
Right.
Who came to me to help him write an apology letter. I'll just be amorphous and say, though I can never get him to spell it out, he was never able to get that forgiveness, and that weighed on him. And stress and pressure and burdens inside, they don't do your biology any favor.
Right.
And so I was pissed at the lack of grace about accepting an apology for a stupid thing that we all did. I mean, his just happened to do it with a gun.
Right.
Nobody got killed, but it created a deep trauma.
Yeah.
So I use that as my motivation,
Gotcha.
And I was just going to say, in many ways, my friend Tom, when trying to think about the apology, I was trying to help him. He moved back to Pasadena. He knew he was on borrowed time, and it was like the movie Almost Famous. I'm the journalist, I'm the Cameron Crowe character that can never get their subject to sit down and tell me the story. And that was just the least heartbreaking part of it. But after he passed away, I met his widow, met his daughter, met his best friend, a guy named Mark Fishbein, who's an incredible person, and they filled me in on all I missed. So it was a really emotional thing. I walked into these people's lives after they lost somebody they loved dearly.
Yeah. So this book has really been percolating for a long time.
It has been. Yeah. I feel like this book was much easier to write than Arroyo. I did not know what I was doing. I'm a former journalist, nonfiction writer.
Yeah.
It's like when you're a first-time novelist, it's like you're an exploding star and there's everything out there. This was more controlled and a slow burn.
Right. Yeah. Arroyo was your first novel, the first work of fiction, right?
Correct.
And Later Days is your follow-up. Are you going to be exclusively writing fiction now? I know you are working on a 710 book. What
Yeah.
can you tell us about that?
Yes, my swan song is ironic and stressful, but also a pleasure to write. It is about the history of the 710 freeway,
Hmm.
the real history of the freeway, not the one that I arrogantly thought I know when I was a daily reporter
Mm.
working on Deadline. This goes deeper. And it tells the real characters of the cities involved and a bigger American story.
Hmm.
But that will probably be my nonfiction swan song.
Hmm.
And I am going to stay in fiction. I already have the idea for the next one. It will be connected to Later Days.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm trying to do my thing. I wish I had jumped into fiction many years ago,
Oh, wow.
to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Is
I'm just as in love with writing now as I ever have been.
Yeah. Do you find it easier to write fiction? Like, is it more of a creative expression that, I mean, with nonfiction books, obviously you have to try to be accurate,
Yeah.
which is kind of limiting in a way.
I've learned a lot about fiction. It's a good question. You know, with nonfiction, there's sort of a set universe, a pages of fact. You know, with a novel, it's like it's like the ocean. It's just so wide open and sprawling, you can easily get lost.
Hmm.
That's why with fiction, you have to just take a little piece of that ocean and
Yeah.
be okay with that and find interesting fish.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories happening right now, like the 710, like
Yeah.
the Eaton fire, it's glaringly obvious to me that we're missing a voice
Yes, we are.
on a perspective on those stories.
Yeah.
And that is who you mentioned earlier, Kevin York, our former mentor and friend,
Yeah.
and passing a weekly editor for many years, passed away last year. Tell us about what Kevin meant to you and your career.
Kevin was a trip. I sort of met him at the beginning of my journalism career and the start of my nonfiction writing career. When I met him at the Star News, he was leading some union revolt there, and I was based at the San Gabriel Tribune, so I didn't see him. But I remember when I met him, and he was where I was a little more preppy. You know, he was a little gruff, unshaven. I don't know if his shirt was tucked in. You know, and he kind of had this everyman kind of blue collar ethos about him. But I instantly liked him, and he saw a story of mine he liked. But he seemed like an editor, but he was really a rabble rouser,
Right.
and he really cared deeply. In some ways, I love to have seen what he would have done if he'd been at the LA Times, because
Yep.
he probably could have conquered even bigger
Absolutely.
mountains. And I met him when I was just starting to freelance in 2003, and he was wiser and older, and you were working for him, Joe Piasecki, Andre Coleman, all these other really good sort of unheralded talents in the writing world of Pasadena. And we were I felt like there was kind of a misfits quality, and the Pasadena Weekly made magic
Yep.
on a shoestring budget. And it still blows my mind. Kevin and I later, he let me kind of freelance when I'm writing my books, and we had a blast. I could go back to old stories. We broke some cases open, and he had a very deft, light touch as an editor. That's what I liked about him. He was not overbearing and trying to give you his perspective, but Kevin was ferocious. I think he's the type of guy that didn't like too much attention on him, and many of us adore him, and I think he'd come down and slap us and go to get back to work. But he would definitely be the tip of the spear writing about the fire.
Oh yeah.
And there's been some really misleading narratives pushed out there. And I think Kevin would have said BS, even if it went against one of his previous beliefs. So, Kevin liked to challenge power. He was very good at it, but I always worried about Kevin because I didn't feel like he took care of himself as well as he could have.
No, he didn't.
And the French fries, the smoking, the beers and all that.
Yeah.
But he was an old school newsman. He was doing what he knew. And in some ways, the good die young.
Yeah.
It was crushing to see him in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I beat myself up that I had not been a better friend to him when he'd been a good friend to me.
Right.
So I am very sorry about that. And I know it tore a lot of people apart. And I still think he should have gotten even more coverage.
Yeah.
You wrote a great obit about him, but Kevin Urich, they don't make many like him anymore.
No, they don't, and taken too soon. Your Later Days book launch was at Romans, as I mentioned, but you've got a book tour coming up, a number of dates. So where can people find you on the road, and where can they learn more about your work?
They can just go to my website, which would be the easiest thing, but I am doing events at the Flintridge Bookstore, which is very close to where I went to school. So I don't know if they're going to be having a gun check, but maybe. But then I'm going to be doing an event in LA at the North Figueroa Bookshop, Arvita Books, and we have some other things in the works. We had a great launch at Vromans. We had Sandra Singh Low as the moderator.
Amazing.
We had a string quartet playing classic rock. How lucky can a guy be, you know? And everybody felt my friend Tom hovering around.
Right.
So it was a magical time.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. The book is Later Days and chipjacobs.com.
chipjacobs.com.
Chip, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Justin. Appreciate you having me.
Before we go, here is this month in Pasadena history. It was this month in 1924 when Pasadena City College, then called Pasadena Junior College, began its very first year. The initial enrollment in September 1924 was approximately 270, 132 women and 90 men, and they were served by a faculty of 31. It was one of the largest junior colleges in the state. The original mascot was a pirate. The college was established as a result of a nearly $3 million bond that Pasadena voters approved by a 2-to-1 margin earlier that year. The Pasadena School Board then created Pasadena Junior College on the Pasadena High School campus, which opened in 1913 and was then located on Colorado Boulevard to the north, Sierra Bonita Avenue to the east, Blanche Street, later renamed Del Mar Boulevard, to the south, and Hill Avenue to the west, the site of what would become Pasadena City College in 1947. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Pasadena Monthly. Tune in every fourth Friday of the month at 5 p.m. Learn more at pasadenamedia.org and justindouglaschapman.com. We'll see you next time.